So we are pretty much in the midst of the holidays right now, and holidays usually correlates with family time. And if you're anything like me, when you're with your family during the holidays, you could be playing some games, having a good time. And one of the games I remember playing a lot growing up was Monopoly. Monopoly is a household game that most people have probably played several times in their life. And the reason why I bring that up is try to put yourself as a general manager in the National Football League. It is a game of risk. Just like Monopoly, you are trying to strategize where you want to put your houses, how you want to do that, but it's still a game of risk that you are playing. The Miami Dolphins are in a very similar situation right now as they put all their houses on Park Place. Well, now they're being evicted pretty much. So, my point being an NFL general manager is not easy. I'm your host, Matthew Raridan, and this is the Snap Count Show. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Snap Count Show, where I'm your host, Matthew Raridan, and with me today is none other than David Street.
Hello.
And Thaddeus Lloyd.
Heyo.
Well, guys, like I alluded to in our intro, the Miami Dolphins are in a very tough situation right now, and they aren't the only team that could be in this situation. When you put all your cards in a basket, like they have with their quarterback Tua, they now are in an interesting situation as they bench him. What do they do in the future here? Because they cut him, they're going to eat a lot of money. A lot of money. They keep him, they're still eating a lot of money. So I think an average NFL fan, we are just fans, you don't realize really what goes into being an NFL general manager. And David, it's very tough. Okay, there's a reason why they are in that position, but what do you do in a situation like this? You took the risk, but now you're paying for it.
Yeah, I think this is just a lose-lose situation all around. For the Dolphins, there are no winners here because they drafted Tua, I think, with the fifth pick, so clearly thought that he was going to be the future of the franchise, and at certain points it certainly seemed like he was going to be, because on the rare occasion where Tua would play, he produced flashes of brilliance, but that's where the problem lies. I talk about when he would play, like when he would play, because he got injured a lot. Like it seems like he got injured every single year. Just all the concussions that he's suffered through, and there comes a point when you have to realize that what, it's time to cut ties here. And I think certainly them benching Tua, for Quinn Ewers, I think is a pretty telling sign that they are ready to move on from Tua. But also the other thing too, aren't the Dolphins in the playoff race? Like they're not out of the playoff hunt, right? So like at this point, do they feel like Quinn Ewers gives them a better chance to lead them to the playoffs than Tua does? Again, like last time I checked, Miami was still very much in the playoff race.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, David, because Thaddeus can answer this question for us. I just saw an article before we came on, and there's one person who's very upset about not getting the starting nod, and its name is not Tua Thaddeus. Zach Wilson thinks he should have got the starting position for the Miami Dolphins. How absurd is that?
I honestly don't know. I think well he was originally brought in as the backup to Tua this year, but then it looks like Ewers just beat him out, and I think Ewers did play a couple snaps as well. So that's really on Zach Wilson. And to your question, David, yeah, they are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, so they're just
Oh,
gonna
they are eliminated.
yeah,
Okay.
so they're just gonna see what Ewers has basically. In my mind, it's
Mhm.
just it goes to show just how bad Zach Wilson is, in my opinion. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's just not any good. I mean, I to be honest, I didn't even realize
Well,
he was still in the NFL.
I didn't even realize he was with the Dolphins, but like he never should have gotten drafted as high as second. I mean, that was a massive mistake by the by the Jets GM. And then also, Matthew, you talk about GM not being an easy job, and yeah, it's true. Like it's easy. I think it's easy for us to criticize general managers because we have the benefit of hindsight, and we have the benefit of kind of having a sort of lens that that GMs don't. Because certainly when you're a general manager, one of the things you have to do is you have to think quick on your feet because there's other teams competing to get players that you want. I mean, there's a reason why none of us are general managers. Like I could never be a general manager of a football team.
Well, and we're kind of in a crisis, and Thaddeus, I think you'll be great at answering this, but we definitely are in a crisis because the quarterback's going rate is just getting higher and higher and higher. But we are now seeing this occurrence, happening more and more. First, Russell Wilson with the dead cap the Broncos had to eat. Now it could happen with Tua. You know what's next?
You got to eat it. And some of these quarterbacks, they're just getting this generational wealth. It's the highest paid position. It's one of the toughest positions, obviously. But at the same time, if you're, in our eyes, the fans' eyes, these organizations are paying a lot for a quarterback which is mediocre or subpar.
Mm.
But at the same time, like, who are you going to find? Who's going to be your alternative? And you can risk it and try to get like a lower drafted QB or an undrafted QB or someone off the streets, for cheap. But are they going to be doing as well as what with your current quarterback? So it's
Mm.
really a tough position to be in a lot of the time. And like you said, hindsight is 2020. But there have been some real bad decisions, like the Tua contract was bad. Like the Dolphins are going to have to pay him whether he plays or not, 52 million next year, which is crazy. And then you had the massive Trevor Lawrence contract, which I think he was the top paid quarterback or one of the top paid quarterbacks. Now it looks like he's doing a little bit better this year, but it's for where he is in the QB rankings, he is not worth that contract, and they're locked in with him for another 4 years minimum. You know, um, And then the big one, Kirk Cousins. He signed the massive 4 year, $100 million contract. Now we know he's a generational cash grabber, but that looked like it backfired because they had drafted Michael Penix, and then Michael Penix looked good for like 3 or 4 games, and then he got hurt. He wasn't sure, and now Kirk Cousins might be starting for them again next year. So you really don't know the ebb and flow of the NFL. And
Yeah.
80, I'd say 70 to 80% of these contracts, yeah, they are overpaid. But what's your alternative?
Well, you know who the biggest loser is in this, and when I say it, it'll make sense to you guys and the fans out there. Is Daniel Jones. The reason why I say that is because he has been injury prone throughout his career, and he's been known to be like a roller coaster. Why,
Mm.
he started out this year great for the Colts, but now they're not going to reward him with a big contract. Yeah, he'll get a contract, but they're not going to give him nearly as much because say they do and he ends up being his typical self and goes down low, that they're going to be stuck with that money. So I feel like
Yeah.
that's just for him that he's going to be the biggest loser in this.
Well, it depends because he could have another Sam Darnold situation where, Sam Darnold looked really good last year, but the Seahawks still only gave him like a 3 year, $30 million
Mhm.
contract, right? So it was kind of like a test.
Yeah.
And I feel like now with him going down with the injury, obviously we saw good flashes from him last year, so he's probably going to get that prove it deal again. He's going to have back to back prove it deals because look, he already got a big contract from the Giants. Like the Giants gave him a big contract a couple years after he was drafted. That obviously did not work out. So I think the Colts are going to be pretty cautious about this going forward.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, as they should, and that's talking about being risky as a general manager in the NFL. It is tough. Sometimes you got to roll the dice and it pays out for you, and you hit Yahtzee, and sometimes you don't. But um, well, we wouldn't be an NFL show without talking about this next topic. It's I've been on every show, since Sunday, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs missing the playoffs. Sounds like something we talked about on here as a prediction, and it became fruition this last Sunday. But more than that, we did see star quarterback Patrick Mahomes go down with a torn ACL. I mean, I hate seeing that. I don't want anybody ever getting hurt in the NFL. I wish that upon nobody. So it is sad to see that. Uh, but I know his body of work, and I know how much he loves the game. He'll be back. We'll see how well he does when he comes back. But
Mhm.
prayers go out to him and his recovery. But the Chiefs the dynasty is over. They missed the playoffs with 3 weeks left to spare. That's just what's crazy. Is that just shows you how bad they were this year, and even more to that is, I mean, the AFC isn't that strong this year either. So I mean, it's strong, but there's still chances for teams to get in, and the Chiefs still can't get in even with 3 weeks left. So this is huge. This really is huge, and we've all seen the stats out there that this is the first time since 1998 without Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or Mahomes in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
I hate that stat so much. Like you're just sneaking in, and you're just finding any way to include Mahomes.
I know. That could probably I go for anyone. You could throw anyone's name in there at that point without
Yeah,
Joe Flacco, without like they could
without
just throw.
Lamar Jackson, without whoever.
Yeah, I mean, but he's only won though really much ever since he came in. I mean, he's reached the AFC Championship game every year since he started. So I will give him that. I
Yeah,
definitely will.
yeah.
Okay. But uh, David, I mean, do the Chiefs come back at all?
Well, it's hard to say because Travis Kelsey isn't getting any younger, and really Patrick Mahomes. Listen, Patrick Mahomes is going to make the Hall of Fame. He's already got 3 Super Bowl rings, but it also cannot be ignored that I don't want to say he's regressed because that's too strong of a term, but he's also not the same quarterback he was before, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, he's not the same quarterback as he was before. And then also, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that I predicted the Chiefs to miss the playoffs. In fact, during our predictions, I think I did predict the Chiefs to at least to make the playoffs, but I did predict them to finish third in their division, and they are going to finish third in their division. And not to toot my own horn here, but like, can we all acknowledge that it was extremely easy to see that they were going to finish third in their division? Like, I don't care that they won 15 games last year. I've been beating a dead horse on this, but all their games last year, or at least most of their games last year, were nail biters. Like, there was nothing about their play last year that indicated that they were an elite team, and the way they got exposed by the Eagles. Again, I'm not gonna say that I predicted them to miss the playoffs because even like I thought that was crazy, but I don't think anybody should be surprised at all that they did miss it and that they did finish third in their division because I think people were so caught up in the hoopla of like, oh, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Andy Reid, it's Patrick Mahomes. Like, well, no, they've been average for like the past few years, okay? And I think now we're actually finally forced to acknowledge it.
Yeah, and the thing that's tough is is yes, that's true, but at the same time, the Chargers could be very wishy-washy. So I could see why some people may argue that you could, flop, switch them, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Chargers, are going to finish second in that
Yeah,
division. So, Thaddeus, now that Pete Carroll's back, Andy Reid is what now the second oldest coach. I mean, I think he was once Pete Carroll retired, but how many years does Andy Reid even have left?
I honestly don't know. It's kind of a thing where, he's obviously got a lot of passion for the sport and he's been coaching for a really long time. But sometimes it's just either when you're going to hang it up or you just keep on going. We saw it with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, coached for a really long time, and then you know it was finally just time. It was time to
yeah.
end in New England, and then he was out, and then he was out for a couple of years, and then took the North Carolina job. I don't know how that's going to go, but as far as we know, Andy Reid is still like an elite coach, you know, so it's gonna remain to be seen. I would more focus on the players. How long does Chris Jones have? How long does Travis Kelsey had? And I mean, it took already some big element of you know, what's the word? Coaxing for Travis Kelsey to even come back for this year. And they don't even make the playoffs. So what's going to happen with him? And it was just we saw the signs last year. Obviously, they still ran the AFC, but we saw the cracks last year that this roster was feeling getting old. So it was just kind of a matter of time. And yeah, I really don't know what's going to happen for the future of them. Is the dynasty over? Maybe. They still do
Mm.
have some good pieces, but yeah, as of this year, they are officially done, so it's not going to happen. First time in 10 years, though. It's been a whole decade since the Chiefs haven't made the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something to keep in mind because even before Mahomes was there, Alex Smith
Mm.
actually was, led them to the playoffs also. So
Yeah,
you're good,
and
David.
like the other thing too is that you can make an argument that this is the best thing to happen to Kansas City because you know for as critical as I am of Mahomes, I think he's still a very very talented player, and obviously he's accomplished a lot, and he's still in his prime, and so I think this is a reality check for the Chiefs. Like this is an opportunity for them to like reload and get back to like where they've been before because sometimes you don't really see that you need to fix yourself until you hit that low point and you're forced to look at yourself in the mirror. And so I think we could see something similar happening with the Chiefs, where missing the playoffs actually forces them to look in the mirror and make the changes that they need to make.
Yeah, absolutely, and we can all agree that they do need to. I mean, they need a run game. They need something to help offset Mahomes, and
Yes.
they just don't have that at all. So that's something
Yes.
that they
Yes.
just really need to regroup and figure out, and they will. I know they will. I mean, as long as Andy Reid's there, they definitely will. So this could be, the greatest thing to happen to them, and but it is still unfortunate that Mahomes had to get
Yeah.
hurt in the process, but they
Isn't
will
it?
eventually
Isn't
figure it
it?
out.
Isn't it kind of interesting that you would think that getting blown out in the Super Bowl would be a wake up call for the Chiefs, but evidently it wasn't.
Well, they were like, "We still made it," They're like,
Yeah,
"We
yeah,
still made it," so it's fine. But yeah, so it is going to be weird this year going into the playoffs without seeing them, and there's a couple other teams that we may not see, and there could be some fresh faces that we will see. So we're going to talk about that here shortly on actually some of these games. The last thing that I want to talk about here, and this is more of just a quick rant on my part, and you guys could chime in as well, is I'm getting sick and tired of these NFL teams building their stadiums outside of where they are, but still calling themselves, that city. Sorry, Thaddeus, I'm going to do it to you. Your Niners are no longer the San Francisco 49ers. They are the Santa Clara 49ers.
I
Uh,
know. I know.
I mean, and the reason I'm bringing this up is if you guys did not see, the Chicago Bears are thinking about making a new stadium, but on the Indiana side. They,
Oh,
they do they do that, probably for tax reasons.
yeah.
You are no longer the Chicago Bears if you move there. You are the Gary, Indiana Bears at this point. Okay, it's I can't stand that. I mean, not only are you moving to a different city, you're moving to a different state. You no longer can. I know there's a East Chicago in Indiana, and it is still a suburb of
Mm.
Chicago, but it's not. Okay, like I just need to really put that out there.
To be to be technical here, like to be extremely technical here, I'm pretty sure the San Francisco and the San Francisco 49ers at this point refers more to the San Francisco Bay Area and not necessarily the city. It's like the Tampa Bay Rays MLB team, how people get confused, like, well, why are you called Tampa Bay when you play in St. Pete? Well, because the whole area is Tampa Bay. I think that's how it is for San, but don't get, like, it is still very confusing, and most people aren't really going to give a crap. Uh,
Well, it's like the Cowboys. You're not in Dallas. You're in Arlington. Okay,
yeah,
like, or the New York Giants that play in
they don't
New
even play.
Jersey.
Yeah,
I,
mm,
sorry. I mean,
yeah,
it just pisses me off. Like, you're not that. I get that it sounds better and it's a bigger market if you put it that
yeah.
way, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I mean, you're
Well,
in
what do
New.
you what do you think, Thad? Like, you're the fan of the 49ers.
Oh, I mean, I grew up on the Santa Clara 49ers and actually visited the stadium as well.
Nice.
So I mean, it's not like too much of a big thing. It is like slightly annoying, but it's actually not as annoying as when your owner moves the entire team across the country.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's what I find annoying. Like what Stan Kroenke did to the Rams was just
yeah,
terrible. I hated that. And then moving the Chargers from San Diego to
yeah,
LA in the same market was
yeah.
just a terrible move as well.
But
So
also,
I
it's
hate those more.
I understand that the people of St. Louis felt betrayed, but also the Rams have been one of the best teams since that move, so it's kind of hard to blame Stan. Matthew, before we move on, I do have to ask, like, real quick, with the Chiefs missing the playoffs, are the Buffalo Bills now at this point guaranteed to make it to the Super Bowl? Because they've been knocking on the door for the past several years, and yet the one team they've never been able to get past is the Chiefs. Well, now the Chiefs are out, and so Buffalo has basically been given a yellow brick road to, like at this point it seems like they're all but guaranteed to win the AFC Championship, because who's going to stop them now?
Well, don't tell the Bills that. Yes, this is the clearest path that they've had, in recent time, but they can't have that mindset. Yes, I would still, put my chips and my marbles in on the Bills because their kryptonite is no longer there. Being the Chiefs and the refs. I mean, the refs are still there, but it's not the Chiefs that they're playing. But it is true that that's the one wall that they could not get over. But if they have that mindset, they will slip up and lose. But the way Josh Allen is playing, and the way that I saw him against the Patriots this last week, he's now, expecting a child. He has a lot of motivation, and I've always loved Josh Allen's game. He was never sought after, and he worked his way all the way to the top. I respect the heck out of him. So, yes, to your question, David, this does give them the edge and the favorites to represent the AFC, in my opinion. But they just can't have that mindset, though.
What do you think, Thad?
Like you would think so. Like, the Chiefs have been their one stopping point. But the problem is that this is probably the weakest Bills defense we've ever seen. And
Fair? Yeah.
this year they're very I mean, it wasn't as bad as like 3 years ago because now they have James Cook, but they're still super heavily reliant on Josh Allen. Actually, in reality, you literally just switched out Stephon Diggs for James Cook as far as your position players, because now they really don't have any receivers. Like
Mhm.
I like Khalil Shakir. I think he's really good, but he's not like a true number one. Who can take over a game, which you need. So if anything's going to happen for the Bills, it's going to have to be three consistent superhero type games in a row from Josh Allen. That's what it's going to take. And just the AFC is just so wild this year. I don't know what to expect, but that's also the fun part of it this year as well.
Of
Yeah,
course.
we have a lot of young guns out there that you never know. They may just come up and gunsling it. But I the Bills are more the veteran team in the playoff field right now over the likes of New England,
Yeah.
Jacksonville. I mean, in my humble opinion, but Denver,
Yeah.
they are younger teams that still are getting the feel of what it's like to be back in the playoffs. So where the Bills have been there consistently over the last couple of years. So great points, and I'm sure we will talk more about that here as we preview these games. And the first game that we have to preview, Thursday night football, Rams and Seahawks. This is a pivotal matchup. It really is. Actually, every game we're about to preview is going to be pivotal. The reason why is because this will be for first place. I know we still have 3 weeks to go, but out of all these teams, as of right now, will be the battle for first place. So it's very important to note that because the Rams are going into Seattle. Winner will now be in front in the NFC West, a very, very tough NFC West that is going to produce possibly three playoff teams. So it's not an easy division. The tough part right now for the Rams is they're going to be without their star wide receiver. Well, one of their star wide receivers, Devontae Adams. All right, Puka Nakua, I think it's easy to say, is their star receiver. But Devontae Adams and what he's done in the NFL over his career, we cannot disregard that. And he's kind of resurrected himself being in LA with Matthew Stafford and the Rams. I know right now the Rams are having some plane issues as far as getting their team and their personnel to Seattle, but they're not going to let that be a distraction to them. The Rams are a very, very professional and prepared team. Keyword I want to use here is prepared. The Rams, they go into every matchup just knowing what they're going to do. They have a game plan. Even though Sean McVay has been one of the youngest coaches in the NFL, he is an excellent NFL coach. He really is. Okay. And I think ever since he also got Matthew Stafford, that's been a great marriage. It really has between the head coach and your star quarterback. Seattle, on the other hand, yes, they are in first place, and I don't want to spoil too much because I'm going to let David take the reins on this one. Uh, they have Sam Darnold at quarterback, Jackson Smith and Jigba. There's definitely talent there. But if you're going to ask me who am I going to take, Matthew Stafford or Sam Darnold, I'm going to tell you 10 times out of 10, I'm taking Matthew Stafford, even with a bad back, okay? That's just the difference between the two. I get that they're going into Seattle. You have to deal with the 12th man. But if it's any indication how I'm leaning here, I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams. What I saw them do last week against Detroit, I know Detroit has kind of regressed a little bit since last year. They're still a playoff team. Detroit is still a great team. But the Rams, man, talked about it just last week and probably the week before that. They are probably one of the most underrated teams in the NFL, but they are one of the very best teams in the NFL. Give me Matthew Stafford and the Rams on the road. I'm going to go with a 27-17 victory for the Los Angeles Rams. David, yeah, you can get to your prediction, but why would you maybe feel a little hesitant to go with the Seahawks this late in the year?
Yeah, so you look at the Seahawks record, and not only are they tied for the best record in the NFL, certainly in the NFC at least, um, but if I'm correct, they also have the best point differential in the entire league. So certainly at first glance, they appear to be arguably the most dominant team in the NFL. But what makes the Seahawks kind of weird is that they're when you crunch the numbers. What's up, Ed?
Hello.
What's up? We're talking about the Seahawks Rams game, and right now I'm about to make the case why the Seahawks are actually a lot more average than people realize. So just to kind of catch you up. So anyway, as I was saying, I think when you crunch the numbers down, you see that Seattle is probably the most average, great, the most average dominant team we've ever seen. And the reason why I say this is because one, let's start with Sam Darnold. Okay, does anybody really trust Sam Darnold to lead them to glory in the playoffs? No, I don't think anybody does. Now, of course, one might say, but we're talking about the regular season. Okay, fine. Sam Darnold has also turned the ball over a lot. He has 11 interceptions, which is one of the highest, in the league. The Seahawks have a very poor running game. They're 22nd in the league in rushing yards. Now, at first, I thought that may have been because they throw the ball a lot, and so there's really no need for them to run the ball. No, I looked it up. They're averaging under 4 yards a carry on the ground. So it's not even just a matter of, well, the system has them throwing the ball a lot. No, they're just not good at running the ball. Period. And Thaddeus, you mentioned before about them turning the ball over a lot. They've turned the ball over more times than any other team with the exception of the Minnesota Vikings. So they've turned the ball over a lot. They don't have a very good run game. So nothing about them statistically should indicate that this is an 11-win team, and yet somehow they are. They have one of the best run differentials or excuse me, this is not baseball. One of the best point differentials in the league, and this is kind of an aside point. But I will say that it's absolutely crazy to me that Seattle is 31st in giveaways, and yet, so like their offense has not helped their defense a lot, and yet despite that, they're second in the league in points given up. So Ed, since you just got here, just to kind of
Sure.
reiterate, like I said, Seattle has a great record, great point differential, and yet, as I said, when you crunch the numbers down, they're actually not as good as you think they are. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Where do you stand on that?
Well, I stand on the point of their defense is carrying them to the point of Sam Darnold doesn't have to be Superman to carry this team to the playoffs. It's the defense that's carrying them to the playoffs. They are number one in opponent yards per pass, so they really are creating a cloud of coverage that has been difficult for anybody to really go down the field. Now, when you're talking about in this game in particular, Stafford, his entire career he's been able to take an offense that can only go so far, but actually make it stretch further down the field. So, to your point, David, there really is no statistical thing on the offense that says that this Seattle team should be as highly ranked and in playoff seeding as they are now. But it's the defense that's really carrying this team, and Sam Darnold just doesn't need to mess it up.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. And I forgot to make my prediction. I'll just make it very quick. I'm going to take the Rams over the Seahawks, 24-17. So
Thaddeus, question for you here is, although I know we've kind of knocked a little bit on Seattle, at least Sam Darnold more specifically, with McDonald there, you have to feel though that they have a bright future because he's there. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, he's been compared a lot to like the defensive Sean McVay, basically. The real hot hire, the real scheme guy. And it really seems like it's been true. Like he's schemed up the defense really well. They're playing at an elite level, even though you probably can't name more than one player on that Seahawks defense. So it's been really impressive. And, he's had a good track record, being with the Ravens and their really good defense from a couple years ago. So I really do think they have a bright future. And for this game, I actually think they're going to win. I'm going to take the Seahawks because when they played earlier this year, They lost to the Rams by 2 points, right? And that was because Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions. If you throw 4 interceptions, you're almost guaranteed losing by more than 2 touchdowns, right? But they only lost by 2 points, and they still had a shot at the end of the game to win. So I thought that was really impressive. And the Rams are going to be without Devontae Adams, which I think is pretty big, and shoring up that defense. So obviously, they looked a little bit shaky against the Colts, but I think the Colts just had a really good defensive game plan against that offense. Now, the running game for the Seahawks has not been there, but as long as Sam Darnold doesn't turn it over, it should be fine, actually. So I think it was Colin Coward who said basically, the Seahawks were just, wanting to try to get a quick win out of Indy last Sunday. Obviously, it's the NFL. It's never going to be a quick win, and you always have to prepare. So there might be some truth to that, but I really just think the Seahawks offense is going to do a lot better than what they did Sunday. It's going to be in Seattle, which makes a huge difference because Seattle is one of the harder places to play. So give me the Seahawks in this one to split the division series. Give me the Seahawks 24-21.
Ed, before you give your prediction, I'll ask you just the one question. Does the winner of this game win the NFC West?
Oh, here we are. We're right at the end of the season, so it's difficult to say that that's not the case. Because when we take a look at, they're dead set. This game gives you a game advantage going into the last 2 weeks of the season. That's a difficult thing to overcome. So I think whoever wins this, they do wind up winning the NFC West, and in turn probably winds up with the number one seed. Short of whatever happens in the NFC North.
Yeah. So who do you got winning this game?
I am going to go ahead and take the Seahawks in this one. And the biggest reason is Devontae Adams has 14 touchdowns this season compared to Puka Nacua, who only has 6. So obviously their offense is running through the bevy of wide receivers. But when it comes to cash time, that's Devontae Adams, and he's not going to be there this week. So I think that the Seahawks have a much better opportunity to come out of this weekend with the win.
Yeah, it is going to be tough because you cannot replace Devontae Adams. So you really can't. So it is going to be tough.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, speaking of knowing, we're going to be talking about your team here, Ed. It wouldn't be the NFL this late in the year without Saturday football. The NFL just does it towards the end of the year, do these Saturday games, and lo and behold, it is also the Saturday of the college football playoff. It turns into a pissing contest between the NCAA and the NFL come Saturday this time of year. Well, this Saturday for the NFL, this isn't some boring matchup. This is actually for the division lead of the NFC North, and that is the Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears. And Ed, I'm just going to let you start with this because the main question I have for you is when your back is up against the wall like Green Bay is right now, especially with the injury to Micah Parsons and the loss last week, how do they respond?
I saw a clip this week that reminded me the old movie about the Cleveland Indians Major League when they realized that everything was stacked against them and there is no way that they were going to make anything of that season. So they just stand up and go, well, there's only one thing left to do. Win the whole bleeping thing. And that's exactly how this locker room is taking this challenge is they know that they need to win to go ahead and maintain their seeding in the NFC playoffs because there's still some question on who actually gets the last couple of seats at this table. And the Packers, for as injured as they are, which it does look like Christian Watson is going to play. There wasn't a long-term injury on that. Josh Wiley, I don't remember what I saw on that. And, of course, Micah Parsons being put on the injured reserve as of this morning. So his season's completely done. Now, just a fun fact for everybody of the entire storied history of Green Bay versus Chicago, the 120 years, whatever, however many times they've played. Will only be the 12th time when they have played after Thanksgiving where both teams have a winning record. That is a wild stat to me because it just shows that if one team is good, the other team is bad. If the other team is bad, one team is good. And it's always kind of been that way. And since 1992, the Packers have owned the Bears. And the Bears are really trying to get out from under the shadow of the Green Bay Packers, and they think that this is the time to do it. David, you had something?
Yeah, you talk about how this is only the 12th time since whenever that they both have a winning record after Thanksgiving break. I imagine the last time this happened was 2018 when the Bears had a good record with the guy from North Carolina, Mitchell Trubisky, the second year.
Mitch Trubisky, yeah.
Matt Nagy, yeah.
Yeah, that's I mean, the Packers haven't always had the greatest record. Like the years that Aaron Rodgers did get hurt and we had Scott Tolzien as our quarterback for half the season. Yeah, if anybody remembers that name coming out of Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. So the Bears, I think they believe that this is the time to pounce and to take control of this division. And that's what makes this game so fascinating. As much as I am a Packers fan, as much as I love this team, I don't think that they are healthy enough to win this week against a Bears team that is like, they don't know that they're this good and they are getting better. So I am going to take the Bears in this, as much as it pains me to say so. And I think it's going to wind up being a pretty dominating game, but not a high-scoring game. So I am going to put this at 19-13.
Well, to quickly rebuttal, Ed, I think your argument for the Packers can actually be made for the Bears. Is no one expected going into Week 15 the Bears would be battling for first place in the NFC North. So they also have probably had the same mindset of, well, let's go win the whole dang thing. And that's kind of what they're doing. And like you said, they're getting better probably without even realizing it. So you have to give credit where credit's due. So what they're doing in Chicago has been great. It has been impressive, and they are going to be going against an injury-ridden team right now in the Packers. So I'm going to be the same with you, Ed. I have the Bears winning 20-17 this week, and I think the only reason it's a 3-point game is Jordan Love touchdown towards the end. Maybe an onside kick trying to get it back to try to win the game, but 20-17 Chicago. Thaddeus?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. We another divisional matchup, and I'd like to take Ed's points into consideration because it just looks like the Packers are down and out, for it. Now they're still probably going to make the playoffs. I was looking at the playoff picture, and right now they have an 87%. If they lose, it's still 77%. They really have to have the Lions just try to creep up on them, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I just don't see, with all those injuries, how they can beat the Bears, especially if it's in Chicago. So just give me the Bears and the favorites in this one. Bears are just on a roll, and Caleb Williams actually played a pretty good game against the Browns. Now the Browns defense has been suffering the past couple of weeks, but it was still a good game from him nonetheless. So he's been on a roll, and unfortunately Toyotathon has been broken for Jordan Love.
Yeah.
So, give me the Bears in this one, and a kind of low-scoring game, but yeah, give me the Bears, 27-13.
David.
Certainly, I think at this point, Chicago knows what they know what's at stake at this point, because they know they're so close to a division title, especially after, I don't think they had very high expectations coming into the season, and all the credit in the world to Ben Johnson for the way that he's made that team believe. I think we've talked about it before that Chicago is not the most dominant team, but I think at this point, I don't think anybody can argue that no other team has a bigger sense of self belief now at this point than the Bears do. So it's going to be a clean sweep. I also have the Bears beating the Packers, but I have them in a very, very, very low scoring game. I've got them over the Packers, 13-10.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be. Ed?
One last point out I want to point out is even in the win that the Packers had a couple of weeks ago, the Bears dominated the second half of that game using the running game. And this is going to be a weather game. It is going to be a high of 26 degrees in Chicago Sunday. And, with the Packers having these injuries on defense, it's going to be even tougher for them to stop the run. And Monungai was just shredding them all second half during the last game. So if the Packers are not able to stop that, then there is no shot for the Packers to come away with the win, and the Bears will take control of the division.
Yeah, yep, I could definitely see that happening, and having DeAndre Swift there too. Maybe they could have worked that tandem out. All right, if you're a fan of this show and you've watched it before, you'll know that one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield probably has to be one of the most pissed off quarterbacks in the NFL right now because his Buccaneers team is on the cusp of falling to second place behind the Carolina Panthers, who they play this week in Carolina. Yes, you heard that right. All right, first the Bears. Now we're talking about the Panthers possibly winning a division. Yeah, I know. And Jake Delhomme's not even their quarterback. So it's just how far we've come. Yes, I did not forget about you, Cam Newton, but I mean, who knows about Jake Delhomme anymore? But the Buccaneers, they started off last week against the Saints with Mike Evans coming back, looking pretty damn good. And they end up losing the game at the end to the Saints, and they were not happy. They really weren't. There is a lot of frustrations happening in that Tampa Bay locker room. I just can't see them losing this game. I can't see them losing the grasp of the NFC South, the coveted NFC South right now. And I'll make it short and quick, and then I'll let David, give his spiel with it being his team. But I'm going to go with the Bucks in a very, very dominant fashion this week. Give me the Bucks going into Carolina, winning this one 32-10. David, how did the Bucks respond? It's a similar question that I asked Ed after last week's loss to the Saints. How are they going to respond to this?
Well, I'll answer the question in just a bit, but I just want to say this first. So, you guys know that meme of, well, it's not really a meme, but it's just more of a picture. But it's a picture of the golfer John Daly, and he's smoking his cigarette in front of his opponent, and like his opponent is supposed to represent like the cool guy, or excuse me, his opponent is supposed to represent the lame guy, and John Daly is supposed to represent the cool guy. Well, the lame guy, the opponent facing John Daly, that is the 7-7 Bucks, and John Daly, the cool guy, in this context, that's the 7-7 Panthers. So Matthew, how do they respond? I have no idea because you have a lot more faith in the Bucks than I do, because I pretty much don't have any faith in them at this point. Because first of all, we started the season 6-2, and now we're 7-7. Our defense, especially as of late, has been absolutely atrocious. And look at the teams we lost to the past couple of weeks. Okay, The New Orleans Saints, one of the worst teams in the NFL, and the Atlanta Falcons, also not a very good team. And we were up, I think, 28-14 on the Falcons, and then Kirk Cousins remembered that we're one of the very few teams that he actually does good against, and he kind of just had his way with us. And momentum is real, and like momentum is powerful because on one hand you have the Bucks, like I said, started 6-2, now 7-7. Then on the other hand, you have the Carolina Panthers, who almost nobody had any high expectations for them whatsoever, and yet here they are, 7-7, with a legit shot to actually win the division title. And then also, there's just been a lot of tension in the Bucks among the Bucks players. I mean, Todd Bowles dropped probably his first 10 f bombs in his entire life at that press conference after the Falcons game. So on one hand, you have a team that their body language basically tells us that they think the sky is falling, and then on the other hand, you have a team who they've you know they really have nothing left to lose. Or I always get that backwards. The point I'm trying to make is that one team has all the momentum on their side, and they're going to ride that wave of momentum, and that is the Carolina Panthers. Certainly, I obviously hope that I'm wrong, and I hope. But then again, there is also a part of me, shamefully, that kind of hopes that we lose and that we miss the playoffs so that we can finally move on from Todd Bowles and get a competent head coach. But we'll cross our bridge if we get there, okay? I just don't have any faith in the Bucs at this point, so I'm going to take the Panthers 20-19 over my Bucs.
And what makes this game, this matchup, I should say, more interesting is this. They'll be playing each other two of the last three games, and the very last game of the year being that last game. So, could the loser of this game still win this division?
They could, because if you look at either splitting and with all the tiebreakers and such, there's a good possibility that whoever loses this game, there's no reason to hang your head. You still have another opportunity to get back into it and really overtake the division as a whole. So, this is the same question that you posed earlier, as far as the Seahawks and Rams. It's a different situation going into this season series. With two of the last three against the same opponent, you do have more at play than, oh my God, I lost the last game of that season series. Now what do I do? This is something where even if you split, you do still have an opportunity to go ahead and win this division.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick prediction for you, Ed.
I think the running game for Carolina is going to give the Buccaneers fits, and it is going to be a close game. I will go ahead and take the Panthers at 22-18.
Okay. Thaddeus, do you think that this is a one-hit wonder with the Panthers, or do you think that they can continue this run this year, but also next year?
Well, it's kind of annoying because like I've said before, they are literally Jekyll and Hyde this year. They'll beat the Rams and then lose to the Saints the very next week. So so you really don't know what to expect out of him. Now, obviously Dave Canales has been one of the better head coaches for the Panthers the past 5 years, but he's still obviously made some mistakes, not running Rico Dowdle enough, for a couple of these games this year. You're like, what are you doing? And then they've won against those games when he has run the ball. So obviously the Panthers defense has not been great. They've been very inconsistent this year, but it seems they might be starting to build a foundation. And Bryce Young, now he's not a top 16 quarterback, but he's at least starting to look a little bit more like somewhat of an NFL quarterback. So I mean, there's been progress on that front. Maybe you should be happy about that. but I really don't know what to expect. And I mean, he might be building something, or he might not be. Could be just be a one season mirage. We really don't know. So, but as far as this game goes, yeah, I'm also gonna take the Panthers in this one. I just every single time the Panthers lose to a bad team, then they win against a good team. I don't know how that happens, but I'm just gonna go with the flow. So,
Well,
give me
we're not good, and we're also not bad. Like we're average. So I think
yeah.
you should predict the tie at this point.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's either going to be a tie or go into overtime. So give me the Panthers 27-21 in an overtime game, I guess, because that's how NFC football works. NFC South football works.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, with that being said, in our predictions, Thaddeus, how do we do last week, and how are our records?
So Matt and Ed did the same picks, and then David and I did the same picks, and nobody got a winning record. David and I went 0-3, and then Matt and Ed went 1-2. So it's actually bringing the race a little bit close. Obviously, David is still at the bottom at 14-33, and then Ed is in third at 20-27. Matt is in second, but he actually has a winning record now. Or yeah, he's had a winning record the past 2 weeks, so he's at 24-23. I'm only 2 games ahead at 26-21 now. So I had a big lead. It's shrunk down between Matt and I. So we only got 4 weeks left. So we're gonna see how that shakes down.
We're
Oh,
gonna
sorry, I have predictions too.
Yeah, we'll find out for sure this week a lot because me and you picked 2 games different of the 3. So if I
Yeah.
get those 2 games, I'm tied with you. If you get those 2 games, you pull yourself apart big time. So we're gonna find out for sure this week how things pan out. But we're also gonna find out how things pan out in the NFL. There's a great slate of games this week. I mean, Denver and Jacksonville is another game to highlight. There's a lot of great games to pay attention to, and a lot of great seeding games in addition to these for first place that we talked about today. So NFL is going to be great. So pay attention to that this weekend and the rest of the weekends out. If you could hit that like and subscribe button, we'd really appreciate that. Let us know, your thoughts and your predictions inside the comments as well, and how you see things playing out the rest of the year. It's going to be very competitive for a lot of these divisions, including the very, very weak AFC North. Who's going to win that? The Steelers or the Ravens? Let us know. So, till next time, guys, that's the final whistle. We'll catch you next week.